record vocally. Yeah, welcome, everybody. And tonight we've got an amazing session of the Ultimate Human Blueprint, where we explore high performance, wellness, human optimization. We explore the science and strategies behind becoming the best version of yourself. And we've got one of the most elite in Australia joining us tonight. Thea, thank you for joining us. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of her background, but before we do, I will say a huge thank you to our sponsor, Santa May. There we go, right in front. Our high performance collagen and bone broth sponsor. And I let Thea know she's going home with some high performance bone broth after this session, delivered to her doorstep. Absolutely amazing. And we're really excited to have them as a sponsor. They're locally made, and it is one of the best, if not the very best, collagen and bone broths in Australia. So thank you, Santa May. Let's get into this episode and let's get into the Ultimate Human Blueprint. Thea has over 20 years of experience in the remedial and sports massage industry and holds a diploma of remedial massage, advanced diploma of myotherapy, plus an honors degree in exercise science. Yee-hoo! I've got almost the exact same background, so I absolutely love it. Plus, she's done a perfection of combination for delivering, well, this is a perfect combo, for delivering highly skilled treatment and individually tailored advice. She's a qualified well-being and performance consultant and integrates this knowledge and people-first approach into her soft tissue practice to achieve best outcomes. She has loads of experience working with elite athletes, sport programs, teams, including the 2016 and 2020 Australian Olympic teams, Australian swim team, 2018 Commonwealth Games, the list goes on. And what is even more interesting is that she also has a handy Ironman distance triathlete in her former life, so has a personal understanding of the performance mindset and physiology. So she is really doing it. This woman is unstoppable. She runs workshops and upskills training in specialist skills like dry needling, and has a special interest in helping other therapists learn and thrive. We could not be more grateful to have you on the show tonight. Thank you, Thea.
Thank you.
We've got a bunch of different questions, but first and foremost, we're going to have you go right into your amazing PowerPoint that you've prepared to give us an awesome look. All right, I've done a screen layout. You'll be able to share your slides. And as we're doing that,
can you hear me fine?
Yes,
can
perfect.
You hear me? Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for that lovely, very extensive introduction. It's really, really nice of you to go into such great depth. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to be here to present tonight and to engage with your team. I'm very happy to keep this quite organic as a session. So whilst I have prepared a bit of a presentation, I'm very happy for questions to come to basically try and answer whatever questions you guys might have. Hopefully the content is interesting and not too boring for you. But look, I'm just excited to be here, and thank you very much for the bone broth. That's awesome, and it actually ties really closely with some of the stuff we're going to touch on tonight.
Yes, perfect.
So I will just share. I've actually got to have a look at my screen. Okay, so I just want to make sure, Megan, that's recovery is the real gold. Is that what is displaying on the
Yes.
on the screen?
No, not yet, actually.
Oh,
1 sec. It worked perfectly before. We'll go again. If you can try again into the.
That's okay. I'll say from my side that it is sharing.
Okay. Yes, we've got it. There we go. Perfect.
Got it. Excellent.
Recovery is the real gold. Love it.
Okay. Recovery is the real gold. So this was actually the topic that Megan sent through to myself. So I obviously have gone with the topic, but I really just wanted to touch on the fact that the recovery space, which I actually prefer in some ways to call the transformational space, is actually, I think, where we do our best work in soft tissue therapy or remedial massage or myotherapy. And so I think it's a perfect topic to go with. So yeah, I'm basically going to talk with this presentation a little bit about my journey and my background, a little bit about my approach, and also a little bit around the sport-specific sort of context and how that might be different to the clinic. And then we can, as I said, we can just open it up to questions as we go along.
Love it.
All right, so let's get into it. So a little bit about my journey. So as Megan has already mentioned, I've been in the industry for a long time. So over 20 years in remedial massage and myo. I have been really fortunate to be involved within high performance sports since 2006. And that has taken me to a number of world championships, Olympic Games, Paralympics, Commonwealth Games, and more stuff. Like I've been lucky to work a bit in AFL and a bit in rugby league as well over the years. So yeah, look, I've had some really amazing traveling experiences. And I mean, even in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to Rome with the Australian skateboarding team. So that's another upcoming competition that I'm going to be covering, not so much as a soft tissue therapist, more in the team management space, but it's just amazing where these opportunities can take you. And I've deliberately chosen 3 photos there on this particular slide because they're 3 favourite memories of mine from all of these experiences that I've had. The top one is in the Lakes District in Italy. And that would have been back in about 2013, traveling with our elite sprint kayak program. Underneath that, there's a photo of me standing next to a very tall athlete in a yellow jacket. And that, for those of you who know swimming, you might recognize that that's Emma McKeon. So Em is our most winning Olympian. Yay! And so I had the great privilege of treating Emma here on the Gold Coast for a number of years throughout her career. So when we were over in Japan at the 2020 Olympics, I was there when she won that gold medal in the 100 free, and I get goosebumps now, actually, just thinking about it. So yeah, I'm standing on my tippy toes there. So just to get a little bit of height next to Em, she's very tall. And then the other photo there is just really in team kit with, holding the Australian flag and with the Olympic logo, the rings behind me. And look, it's such a privilege to be able to represent my country whenever I get these opportunities. So that's, I think that's something that I hold really dearly. And I just wanted to mention that it's such a privilege and an honour, and I never take it for granted. So a couple of other things, just rolling through the points on the slide. My background in exercise science and athlete wellbeing management has also helped me on this journey because it's helped with my knowledge and my approach and in understanding athletes and people and how they tick, and that goes a long way toward getting really good outcomes. My background in sport, I'm a lifetime athlete, I still train every day. Exercise is really, really important. But I think also if you want to work in sport, then you do need to have a really good understanding of what you're dealing with. So if you're passionate about sport, then often you have a background where you have played sport, you've done some sport. So then you're understanding instantly how your body feels when you're working hard and what it feels like to have really great soft tissue treatment, that sort of thing. So I think that background, particularly in triathlon, where I've done a few Ironman distance triathlons, that's served me really well as well. So a few other things about myself is I love to learn. I'm always learning, always trying to embrace the new stuff that's out there, the innovation that's coming. So I think that's to have a growth mindset is a really important factor if you want to be successful pretty much in life, but certainly in the high performance sports space. Taking a people first approach is an important one as well. So always looking at the person and not just looking at them as an injury or a problem to be solved, and really just trying to connect and engage with people first, and looking at the whole picture really serves you well. And lastly there, my passion is I'm really all about helping other people learn, grow, thrive, achieve. And that could be other therapists, that could be the rest of the coaches on the call tonight, that could be athletes, that could be anyone else on a team that I'm working on, that I get a real kick out of that approach to life. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about recovery, seeing as that is the theme for this evening. And so I've got a question there. Why is recovery so important in terms of achieving goals and, gold medals? It's the real gold in a few different ways, but it essentially, from my perspective, it really does help athletes adapt. It helps them basically get comfortable with the stress of training. It helps them then move to that next level with their training load. It also helps them in the performance space in terms of competition. Recovering faster with soft tissue treatment is obviously very important. But one of the things, and I'm just going to move to the next slide, and here is a question that I would actually like people on the call tonight to maybe have a think about, and if you've got any answers, that'd be great. So the question is, what do you think is the single biggest reason why athletes don't achieve their sporting goals? And this does feed very much into what we do and recovery.
Yes, I love that. We've got a few viewers on already. It was just taking a bit for it to get going. Right away, what comes up for me is their mindset and belief.
Yep.
Lost time for training and injuries.
Yes, and that is the answer. Sorry, that's obviously just
touche. All right.
That actually popped up without me doing anything there.
No, hey, I like it. I got it incorrect, so I'm glad I know now. There we go.
No, that's actually something that it has been, it's been well researched. There's a white paper on it. So obviously it's essential to make sure that you're not losing any time from training. So that can be through illness, injury. As soon as you're out and you cannot train and you cannot prepare well, then you lose all of that opportunity to continue to progress. So massage is fantastic in helping people stay fit and healthy and well and achieve their training, parameters, goals, etc. And therefore, it really helps them in the long game achieve their goals. All right.
I love that answer. It's definitely within our scope. It's what we're saying is the most important factor. So fantastic.
Yeah. And look, mindset goes along with that, right? So if they're really proactive in their mindset around focusing on recovery and focusing on programming soft tissue therapy into their training weeks and training blocks,
Yes.
Because they know the benefit of it, then and other adjunctive strategies that we can talk about as well, which we'll talk about maybe a little bit later. Then that's mindset focused for sure. But in the long game, but in the short term, when it comes to performance and regulating, their emotions and actually being present in the moment and being able to control their physiology a little bit, absolutely mindset is key. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Just look, a couple of things around my approach. So when we're looking at winning outcomes, there are 3 key things here that I always lean on. And to be honest, this doesn't have to be in the performance space or in the sports space. This can be in clinical practice as well. So what I've got there is developing rapport with client or athlete, understanding the desired outcomes of the athlete or the client, and solid clinical reasoning. So if you tick those boxes, then you're well on your way to achieving really good outcomes. So I'll talk just a little bit more about this as we go on, but my approach is basically around keeping things really simple and focusing on the whole system. So the whole physiology of the person themselves, and engaging really well with that particular client, and making sure that you're understanding what their needs are. So just very simply doing that first. If you don't get to understand that, then you're going to be limiting the outcome that you can actually have with them. Being specific. So that's where understanding your landmarks, your anatomy, and all those sorts of things, knowing exactly what techniques you've got in your toolbox and what you would apply under what circumstances. You can be really specific with that athlete and understanding, or that client, understanding what they want out of the session or out of the whole raft of treatments that you might be doing with them. Then that's really important, because that helps you then tailor what you're doing with them, and you can be efficient and specific. And then being meaningful and effective. So again, ties to these 3 pillars of, understanding outcomes for the athlete, developing rapport, and solid clinical reasoning.
Love it.
Moving to the next little piece, and again, this just builds on what I've just said. General tips and principles. So the pictures on the side too are just me in clinic or in the treatment space, just doing what I do. So yeah, just showing, assessing, treating, that sort of stuff. First up, I find it so important to make your approach about the goals of the client or expectations or the outcomes that they want, not about your own goals, and not about you. So if you're seeing an athlete who, that you might actually have a look at how they're moving and notice that, or even any client, you're noticing that they're really posturally, they're really not holding themselves well. They're really in, a chin forward, a really stooped or rounded posture. But they come in and they say, I only want you to treat my legs, because I'm feeling like my legs are really, really tight and stiff or whatever. And you're going, yeah, but your upper body is really tight and stiff. And I can see that, that's not going to help you breathe well when you're training if you've got all this compression around your lungs and you're really stiff and rigid through your thoracic cage. So we should treat your thoracic cage. If that's not what they want, then, it would not serve you to go down that path. So making it about them, there's lots of different examples that I could give there, but that's an important one, right? It's also the type of techniques that you do. Like if that particular person's athlete's come into you, and they've said, I just want a massage today. I don't want you to needle me. And you start going, oh yeah, but you've got all these really tight trigger points here and they respond really well to needles. Can I needle you? That actually is not going to help you, right? So pick your battles, and then it might be you've got to educate them on how that particular technique would serve you. Moving on, always assessing for benchmarks and comparisons. So really important to know your stuff, to be able to find your landmarks, know how you might assess a particular region of the body. And sometimes that can just be palpating. It can be putting hands on and feeling tension in the tissue so that you're feeling for pre and post comparison. It can be really great to be rolling through assessments, not only to figure out what particular pathology might be going on with a body, or what sort of injury there is, or what sort of structure is irritated. But it just helps inform that particular athlete or client as to how well they're moving, or where their stiffness is, or tightness or pain. It helps bring them back into their body and gain some awareness of where they're at. And then if you're looking at pre and you're looking at post, then you also can get a really good comparison. And again, that helps them understand the value of what you're doing with them if they get a really good change. So always really important. It's something with soft tissue therapists or remedial massage therapists that often they can get into some bad habits of not assessing, or a client wants to get straight on the table and just wants treatment. And the client themselves doesn't understand the value of the assessment. So it's actually on the therapist to own that space and go, no, I'm just going to take a really quick look at how you're moving, and then go from there. So it's an important one.
Yeah, I love that. And they feel so much better afterwards when they know that has been released, even, moving a neck from left to right. That's a big one. And all of a sudden they can move all the way. They can get their chin to their shoulder and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know I was that locked up. But
absolutely,
if you're not giving them that benchmark, it's so hard for them to see those results. And both of us have been doing it for so long, but it's a simple one that you can't forget, and so important to adding value to that session. So love that. It's a great reminder too.
Excellent. I'm glad we're aligned there. Look, the next point, just all about keeping it simple. So go for the most obvious things first, right? So don't get overwhelmed by, it's easy to do by going through a million different assessments and trying to really, nail exactly the point or whatever that might be tight or might be stiff. Actually, have a look at the body as a whole, and really target the simplest things first. So it might be that a client or an athlete is coming with a lot of neck tightness, neck pain, headache, and you dive into really looking at the neck. Well, actually, if you step back and you look at, well, how is their thoracic cage moving? Because if that's really, really stiff, or if they've got a lot of fascial tightness around that central part of their body, then that is going to put more stress on their neck. And so you may not even need to touch their neck or really specifically go into a heck of a lot of detailed assessment for their neck region. You could just focus centrally on their thoracic cage, which then also helps their parasympathetic nervous system, helps deload the fascial kind of tissue in that area, and helps their whole system just chill out, and their headache may just magically go away just like that, and you haven't even touched their neck. So it's just looking for the really simple things. It's an important one, and you can have a really big effect on a body with that approach.
Yes.
Minimum effective dose just simply means not absolutely smashing the heck out of somebody's body with treatment, just going for the subtlest or the least amount of stress with your treatment technique. So being gentle, being targeted to achieve a result. So that result might be you just want to help that shoulder or that hip move better. You might want to take a little bit of pain away. But being able to be specific with your assessment and then really targeted with your treatment means you can be really effective with not a lot of stress on their body. You don't have to cause a lot of pain to get a really good result or cause a lot of tissue trauma. So it's a really good reminder. And it's usually as you become more skilled as a therapist, that's when you really can get very nuanced and very specific with that approach. Yeah. Treating in 3 dimensions.
we just had a great example of that, Thea, where we were working backstage and a client came in presenting a lot of niggles and works very hard holding a camera all day. And we did a lymphatic massage with some gloves, very light, he's never had a lymphatic massage. He's only had kind of sport, deep tissue, things like that. And in his mind, he was going, oh, I don't think we're going hard enough. He got off the table and said, I cannot believe how good I feel, how light I feel. The inflammation's gone down just from some lymphatic brushing, very, very light, but made all the difference just due to the inflammation that he had in the body that day. So, the therapist there was like mind blown that, they didn't have to get really deep on that client. And I think taking away from that, knowing next time you can just do, if it's presenting that they're inflamed, or maybe some light lymphatic massage, stretching can work just as well. So love that.
That's a great example. And often you see it in the athletic world, that athletes just expect that you have to go hard on them to get an outcome. That's often what their experience has been. And it's so not the case. I always approach every consult with, I want to impart the least amount of trauma for the change that I need here. Because, you want them to feel good off the table. You don't want them to feel completely obliterated and then not able to train the next day. So that's a really important consideration. And again, I think the more experienced you get, the more confident you get, the more you can actually follow that approach and know that you don't need to go harder and you can take a slightly different approach.
So true.
Good one. The treat in 3D comment that I've got there, or note that I've got there, is it's actually really important to think about the function of the body and the fact that we move and we function in 3 dimensions. We're not just a tight posterior rotator cuff muscle. We're not, if we look at how, say, for instance, a shoulder moves, if you're restricted with your range of motion, say into internal rotation, internal rotation, then it's not just the structures at the back of the shoulder that are going to limit that. It's actually the muscles at the front that are going to limit that. It's the muscles at the back. So it's looking at the whole 3D dimension. In actual fact, when you're looking at shoulder posture, if you don't create space in the back of the shoulder for that shoulder to sit back, then you're actually missing a big piece of that connected puzzle. So always looking at the body through a lens of, it's 3-dimensional. So treating the back of the shoulder to help the front of the shoulder feel better, important. Treating in the hip, the same scenario. Treating into the deep rotators at the back of the hip to help the head of the femur sit back, so that then an athlete can achieve way better functional control around their hip. So it's just thinking about those things. They're really important. Okay, the next thing I've got, sorry, I'm just jumping between screens so I can move to the next point. And staying within your scope is a big one. Look, the more skilled you get, the more knowledgeable you get, the temptation is there to do more than perhaps you should, when sometimes you do need to make sure that you refer, and particularly when you're working in the sports space, you need to understand what your role is on that team. And if your role is remedial massage, sports massage, soft tissue therapy, and you have physiotherapists and you have dietitians and psychologists and wellbeing managers on those teams, then you don't want to step over into their territory. That can cause a lot of dramas. So you want to know what your space is about and what your role is about, and then be really proactive. If you see that a particular athlete needs something more, then you communicate that out and you refer them on, and that's how you would manage that. So it's a little bit different to when you're in clinic. Sometimes you've got to do more, but it's just understanding that it's really important to stay within your scope and understand what that is. Okay, couple of notes on treatment techniques.
Great.
Just looking at your toolbox, your technique toolbox. It's an important one. We've all got our favorite techniques. So that just shows me mobilizing the talus on an ankle. Looks quite painful. And look, another example of treating in 3D. So mobilizing that talus is achievable because I've loosened off the back of that ankle. So the gastroc, the soleus, and into the plantar surface of the foot then allows that talus to drop back. So yeah, just another example going back to an earlier point. But yeah, look, for me, my favorite techniques, trigger point therapy and tissue tension techniques, or pin and stretch, whatever you want to call it. There's lots of techniques that are the same technique, but they're actually, we call them different names. But they're my favorite techniques. And for me, it's when you are moving the body through range, you are able to engage the nervous system much more effectively. And so that brings a lot of specific change and really fast change to the body. It also helps you really feel where the stiffness or where an area or a joint, a tissue, whatever, where it may not be moving very well. If you apply movement, you can really feel where it's binding, where that first bind is. Whereas if you do not move the body, you don't necessarily get that greater piece of information. So you then don't necessarily get as good an outcome. So it's an important one. And look, I've listed off a bunch of things here that, and there are more things out there than this, but these are things that within our space with soft tissue therapy, I think are important sort of crossover techniques or adjunctive techniques to consider. So MDN stands for myofascial needling, M-cupping, myocupping. Taping is a big one, particularly dynamic taping, rock taping. Really great for helping deload soft tissues, helps with fatigue, helps with facilitation, neuromuscular facilitation. So it helps with lymphatics if there's some swelling. So fantastic extra technique to learn. Even postural re-education you can do with taping. It's fantastic. Breathwork and mindfulness, and I know this is big for you, Megan. It's a really big piece, and understanding how we should breathe and being able to engage with clients on that level and bring them into a better breathing pattern, and helping them really bring breathing into their homework. If you're giving them educational pieces and things to do at home to help them with their mobility, their recovery, their sleep, then working with them in this space with teaching them how to breathe better is an important one. Mindfulness is also really powerful and really important, and breathwork and mindfulness go hand in hand. So learning skills in that space, really valuable. VM stands for visceral manipulation. So it's a really specialized style of massage. It is more probably seated in the osteopathic realm, but it's amazing. If you actually have ever experienced this, or you have clients who've experienced this, where they've really been through all of the typical musculoskeletal kind of interventions that you might lead with. So if someone's got back pain, for instance, and you go through and you do a whole lot of different musculoskeletal driven assessments and treatments, etc., joint mobs, if they have an issue, for instance, with their kidney, and their kidney is to their spine, and I've seen cases like this. So there might be some scarring from, like a kidney infection, an old kidney infection, and that could drive an internal functional change that ultimately causes them back pain. But a visceral manipulation, which is very gentle, very targeted technique to try and mobilize that kidney and get it moving, because all of our organs need to move to function well. Really powerful. So that is something that if you're ever interested in delving more into, I'd highly encourage it. There aren't very many VM practitioners around, so not in Australia anyway. It comes out of Europe. Vagus nerve stimulation is a technique that involves actually putting some clips on the ears and then running a current through specific points where our vagus nerve innervates, has sensory nerve innervation through our ears. So it's, again, a really interesting little technique that can really bring up the parasympathetic nervous system. If you've got someone struggling with that, it's a straight shot into their vagus nerve. And then just the last two. So function.
So, and with the vagus nerve stimulation, because one of my questions for you was, are you using some of the latest techniques when it comes to taking our athletes from our sympathetic nervous system, our fight and flight response, where they're amped up and they could be, if we're looking at the U-shaped hypothesis, their hormones and their performance level could start going down the other side if they're too excited. So we want to get their parasympathetic nervous system where they feel grounded. They go more into flow state. We utilize something called binaural beats with headphones and light therapy called brain tap. And most recently had a client come in and they've been on tour, similar to what an athlete would be like, but in the entertainment industry for 6 months straight, from city to city. There's no break. It's just stadium to stadium. And she said, Meg, it's the most grounded I've felt in the entire tour. And it took about 5 minutes for them to drop into that. It's like, meditation, breath work on steroids. So vagus nerve stimulation sounds similar, like a direct input. And is that something that you've been working with for a while? How do you handle, the athletes when they are feeling that fight or flight response and need to drop back into their parasympathetic nervous system?
Yeah, great question. And really good context that you've just presented there. Yeah. So look, I think, so for me with vagus nerve stim, it is something that you can actually do while you've got a client on the table. So you may be treating them and you can have their ears clipped at the same time. So you're actually, you're ramping up, I guess, the effect of the soft tissue treatment that you're actually doing. And you're helping them actually relax into that experience. So it, I think it has, similar effect on, in some ways, on the system. So it would, obviously, if you're targeting the vagus nerve, you're targeting the autonomic nervous system. You're targeting the gut as well. So you're basically helping those systems chill out. And bring up that parasympathetic side. So I think the binaural beats, so brain tap, so light therapy, and binaural beats in a slightly different way, because it engages just a different part of the brain to bring the parasympathetic. So it's a slightly different mechanism. It's from a different place. It starts from a different place, but ultimately the outcome, I think, would probably be quite similar.
Okay. And we I think a couple of things at the same time. So same as what you're doing. They're on the table, or we'll have them in compression boots, for example. So they're, feeling that and getting very relaxed, and then have those on. But it's so interesting as well that with the vagus nerve stim, there's so much more education coming out around our gut being our second brain, and how important our gut health is, and that this is stimulating the two to help us calm down. It's just kind of 10xing it. I love it. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Totally fine. I think that what you just talked about with the stacking of the different techniques, that's a game changer. So I don't know where we're at with research on that. It's quite innovative. There's more coming, obviously. One thing I would say about the high performance sports space is, in Australia, we always wait for the clear evidence, or we often wait for the clear evidence before we implement. So often we are actually behind in terms of what we are doing in these treatment spaces and places when we're away on teams, because we want to make sure that we've got the right evidence around what we're doing, and we're not actually going to push someone's physiology down a path we don't want it to go. So that's where we always want to be that little bit cautious and careful. So just because we know that it will help, bring down their sympathetics, doesn't necessarily mean it's the right place or space. It's just context, and an athlete, particularly when you're working with an elite athlete, their physiology is unique. So you've just got to be a little bit mindful of, well, how much do you want to change them? So there's a few.
This is so true. Exactly. Yeah.
Few variables there to always be mindful of if you're working with high-level athletes. So simple things, even like they've got an asymmetry in how they're presenting posturally. Well, that might be because they do a one-sided sport. And so that might mean
it's perfect for their sport.
And so how much do you need to actually change them to help them perform better in their next training session, sleep better that night so they can recover better, all those things. So, and that's what you work out over time when you're working with those people in those spaces. But that's a nuance, of working in high performance, is you don't necessarily want them to be symmetrical, but you do need to understand how they need to move, so that it benefits them for their next session or their next competition. And you do need to really try to get an understanding, of how much you want to mess with their physiology. When is their next training session? Do you actually want to chill them out too much on the table? They might be going back out to train that afternoon. So do you want to put them in an ice bath, which could completely, ruin their ability to train later that day? Do you want to
2 days? Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. So, or if they're in a competition where they've then got to back up that night in final sessions, so they might swim in the morning or compete in the morning, and they've got to back up. So you're not going to go doing something crazy like sticking needles in them, acupuncture needles in them, if they're going to be sore for the next day or that night, that sort of thing. So it's just that context around it. There's a couple of other things I've just.
We work with so many different athletes. I mean, swimming, we're just touching on it, but, swimming all the way through to skateboarding. And these athletes have such different physiology. In skateboarding in particular, the reason I was wanting to ask you about it, because I've skateboarded my whole life. I was kind of a tomboy growing up, and I absolutely love skateboarding. But back when I was growing up and I was BMXing, BMX and skateboarding weren't even in the Olympics, for example, as of yet. So the science and the study behind these sports is still ever evolving. Whereas swimming, for example, is a traditional sport, well known. How do you get yourself as a therapist to be equipped for these different sports, knowing that you're going to need to know different exercise sport science and physiology in order to treat them?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Study? Is it, how do you get your mind ready?
Yeah, look, it's a great question.
Tell me more of the Thea while we're in it. We're in the PowerPoint, but I need to remember this question.
Totally fine. And I love that you brought these questions in, because I don't want this to just be my slide deck and not meaningful for you and not meaningful for your team of people.
Sure, they're thinking what, she does that to that, and how does she know how to move? And if it is a shot putter or a javelin thrower, like, they are going to be, have their different
100%. And you're dealing, so that's where understanding your athletes, connecting, like coming back to your simple principles of understanding who the people are that you're working with, what are the outcomes that they are seeking, which brings us back to those earlier slides where I was talking about those points.
Yes.
Like, what is it that they need to achieve? Do they need to get more height if they're a park skater? Do they need greater acceleration off one of the pieces of the park? Do they need greater rotation through the air? Do they, like, is there? So it's
Yep.
If you're working with a sport in the daily performance environment and you're working with other practitioners like a physiotherapist, for instance, or a strength and conditioning coach or a performance analyst, so these are all the different kind of roles that you might have in the HP space, it's leaning in and understanding from those people where you can fit and what you can do to help achieve those goals. So it's a very much a team approach. And layered on top of that is every athlete is different. So what one skateboarder needs is different to another. So you don't necessarily just go with the same approach. You've got to have a bit of a broad understanding of, say, what the schedule might be for the competition and how much time you've got, because that might be the same from one athlete to the next. The environment's obviously the same. It might be 40 degrees. It's 40 degrees for everybody. Stinking hot in Italy in a couple of weeks' time, outdoor events. So you're understanding those things so you can prep and plan and organize for that. You can make sure you've got ice there and you've got all the things, plenty of water, all the things that generally those athletes need. But then when it comes to the specific athlete, it really just depends on them, their system, whether they want to chill out, whether they need to be revved up. Like it might even be, it's so specific. It might be some athletes don't want to talk at all about what they've just done in the skate park or what they've just done in the 1,500 meters. They don't want to talk about in the pool. They don't want to talk about maybe the sporting stuff. They might want you to tell them a few jokes in the treatment space to help them just calm down and have a laugh. So you kind of got to read the room and be really
absolutely.
specific.
I was gathering that from what you were saying, and I'm really interested in the Thea calm me down jokes. I'm sure you've got a few.
I'm terrible, actually.
With some great jokes, and I think you'd have some excellent ones at this point. Like, okay, tell me a joke. I need it. You're like,
no, I'm terrible. I don't even have one. That was probably a poor example. It's probably, you know what? I'd lean into, so what's going on back home with dogs or something like that with their pets, or
perfect.
Something completely different. Or I might show them something funny on Insta or like something like that I've seen, and I know that athlete will be interested in.
Okay, there you go. That's a great idea. 100%. Some bloopers on Insta or TikTok can definitely calm the brain and
so just getting them into that,
out of where they're at, and you don't even need to come up with it. Perfect.
All right, but there are jokesters. Sorry, Megan, what was that?
No, that's perfect. That's great. You've answered that. Excellent. Thank you.
No worries. All right. So look, let's just scoot through because I want to make sure there's a little bit of time for you at the end. So
that's perfect.
Just looking through general tips, we've covered some of this already. So soft tissue therapy, STT in high performance sports, some general tips. Technical skill set is only part of what you're doing. So making sure you know what your role is, making sure you're fitting into the team, you're working really well alongside other performance support team members is really important. You can have all the skills in the world in the treatment space, but if you actually don't fit, then you won't last very long. You won't actually get the outcomes that you need. So that's an important one. Knowing that, as I've just touched on, every sport is different, every athlete is different. You need to be adaptable, aware, and have some resilience about you. So, things are changing all the time in the high performance sport environment. And you need to be ready really for anything and just okay. Once you're understanding what the end goal is, then you just need to figure out a quick plan on how you want to make that work. So it might be that an athlete is they've missed their bus to the competition venue and they're running super late, and they were intending on getting in and doing a really good warm-up, and they were supposed to be at the venue half an hour ago. They don't have time for that. It might be that they come to you to help them. Okay, I just need a couple of really quick activation exercises. Can we work through that? And it's like, how long have you got? What do you need? Okay, well, how else can I help you? So it might be, I need you to help me get my suit on so I'm ready to swim, or whatever it is. But it's So those sorts of things happen all the time, and you've really got to understand what are the key questions, how can I help them, and just basically try and get that outcome. Other examples, like being in the Olympic Games in Tokyo, where I was leading in 2020 or 2021, where I was leading our soft tissue team. And, we arrived there and we're in Japan, and we find that all of the treatment tables are really, really low.
I was about to say, were they set? Perfect for chiros, but not so good for soft tissue. Okay.
Exactly. And so we're then in this situation where we've got some really tall male soft tissue therapists, and they're like literally down on their knees trying to treat on these tables, and not effective at all. And then getting sore backs. And then, in fact, one of them went down with a nasty discogenic presentation from that. So we were like, man, how are we going to work around? We can't deal with this. So we had to then go to all the other kind of teams within the Australian team, because we knew that they had shipped tables over from Australia. So the swim team, they have their own section. The athletics team, for instance, so the big teams within the Aussie team, we knew that they were coming in maybe slightly later than us. We had a few days of time where we could pinch one of their tables here and there. So you're literally just running to try and solve a problem to make sure that situation is covered. So that's the sort of stuff that you're dealing with on the ground. That's just one example, but there are so many. It's an everyday thing when you're in a high performance sporting space. So you've just got to be ready for anything. You're working really long hours, and you've really got to try and take care of yourself as best you can, and leaning on your teammates, leaning on the other people you're working with. But just know it is not a holiday when you're working in that space.
And I mean, okay, so adaptability is absolutely critical. You're basically problem solving. You're a problem solver. So you wouldn't want to be in high performance sport and wellness unless you're open to really ensuring that you can solve problems on your feet. And that's something that you thrive in, because it's not like a regular clinic. One of my questions was, what do you do for yourself? Because my scenario is very similar in the entertainment industry. We work very long hour days. As you could imagine, our crew starts at about 3 a.m. to set up the stages, and then they get like a small break during the concert, and then it's packed down and they're working until 1 or 2 at night, and they're getting like 2 hours sleep and then going to the next city kind of thing. So these guys are and our therapists are the same, because they're, as therapists, just like yourself, for high performance, you're there, the whole time. I love that ice bath photo. So I hope we do. Okay. Yeah. Great. So
I'll come back to it.
Awesome. So this is your self-care for you. Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. This is something I knew you had a question about this. So I thought I'd roll through and put a few things on the page. So I have a few things that I do daily that are non-negotiables for me. So it doesn't matter whether I'm at home and treating, whether I'm, working, even like my role with skateboarding at the moment, I'm doing a lot of ops and admin based work. So I'm not even treating those days, but I'm still treating in clinic roughly 3 days a week. And so it's important to have a routine that you follow. So your routine might be you get up at the same time every morning, you start your day the same, you make sure that you get your training in. That's what I do in the mornings, every morning. Do some training. If you're tired and you're not feeling that great, that's okay. You can still train. You just find something to do that works for you on that day. It might be you don't push yourself quite as hard. I think having a routine, having structure, so you don't have to make decisions, which, that just makes you tired. So you're getting into good routines and good habits.
Fatigue. Yep, love it.
Exactly.
You already know what shirt you're going to be wearing, your nice green shirt you have on now, so you're ready.
That's your Olympic shirt.
You out of bed, it's on. You got your Olympic shirt. Okay, I'm ready to go. You've got your sleep tracker. I've got mine on now.
I don't have mine on, but
okay,
I sleep
I'm
with it.
showing everyone for you. I didn't even know it was on the slide. So definitely
Yeah.
someone
So
we love as wellness coaches. Perfect.
yeah. Yes. So making sure I get good sleep, that is important. And I do track it with Aura. I have done for lots of years. I love my Aura ring. I don't so much love, I don't wear it when I'm treating. It kind of gets in the way for me. That's the only
Ditto.
downside with the
Yeah.
ring. Um, so anyway, like I still, use it, and primarily for sleep tracking. Diet and hydration. So this goes to the bone broth that you are so
Yes.
generously going to offer me.
Send
Thank
you
you.
out.
Looking after your diet and your hydration. So when it comes to looking after recovery, the biggest things are your sleep and your diet. So really important as a therapist, yes, but also as an athlete. So diet and sleep, they trump any sort of interventionist treatment that you might do. So they're really, really important factors. And so, yeah, I've got obviously diet on my list here. Exercise every day. We've already talked about that. And that's a mixture of some strength and conditioning stuff. I still like to do a little bit of running. I like to do a little bit of cycling. I like to do some yoga when I can. So I mix things up. But yeah, I love exercise. I've always done it. I feel weird if I don't do some training anyway. I don't feel right. But that keeps you strong, keeps you vital. It means that you have that resilience in your system for those long working days. So kind of bulletproofing your body. It's important.
Yeah, love
I've
that.
got
You look like an activator in your epigenetic profile, which means, and it's
yeah.
similar to me due to your height and size, movement is your number one medicine. And
Yeah.
if you don't have movement, that can really affect your mental health. Whereas different epigenetic profiles, if someone's really tall and, they have a different thing that they need all the time, maybe it's
Yeah.
like family connection or this or that.
Yeah.
But I'm the same. If I don't move, I go I'm crazy, and I'll call my mom in Canada. She's like, "Have you gone for a run today?" No. You got call me in 20 minutes. You'll be fine,
Yeah.
Meg. So I
Yeah.
think that's such an important factor, and just knowing your body, knowing yourself,
Yeah.
and whatever grounds you, makes you happy. Go out and make sure you get a little bit of time, 10 to 15 minutes a day of that. Love it.
Yeah. Absolutely. A couple of other things I've got there: lights and devices off. So before bed. So
So critical.
getting blue light out of your face, turning your devices off, not be on, social media and, things that are going to light your brain up and make you really activated. Not a good idea an hour before bed, or at least 30 minutes before bed. Red light is great for calming your system. So in wearing red glasses and stuff, I've been through iterations of doing that sort of stuff. I don't so much do it at the moment, but I think it could be a really valuable tool, particularly if you're somebody who spends a lot of time in front of a computer, all day, and you've got that artificial light, or you're in an office all day, you've got artificial light. So getting into that calming kind of light,
Love
fantastic.
it. I actually just ordered a new pair. So if they
Yeah.
were right beside me, I put them on. But I think, yeah, they're
Oh,
so that's such an important aspect
yeah.
for everyone to hear. Even though you are 3 days a week still on the
Yeah.
tools, when you are in front of the screen,
Mm.
having that uh, in most recent, technology
Yeah.
or things that can help us. Love that tip.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a point there, mindful of workload. So knowing what your
Mm,
capacity is and not overbooking yourself, not overworking yourself. So it is really easy. I find it easier to almost overbook myself than underbook. Just when you've got a lot of clients who want to see you, you tend to want to help them. You put them first, and then you end up just being so fatigued, or you're sore because you've just overworked and overcooked yourself. So, and there's often a lag on that. And it's not necessarily that day, it might be the next week where you're like, oh, I'm really tired this week. And it's because the week before you did some really massive days and you just
yeah.
did too much. So you can control that obviously in the clinic environment. Sometimes you can't control that when you're off working on a sporting team, but you can still try to at least set up your bookings or set up your space so that you're getting some little breaks in there and you're taking some responsibility for that. If you're aware, then that's the first step. So that's an important one. Self-treating. So I'm like in the shower, for instance, I have some tools and devices where like fascial blasters and stuff, I will use those several times a week. Mobility for T-spine is what I've got there. So thoracic spine, pretty much every day I will get on my little peanut device, so two balls, and mobilize. And foam rollers are great for that as well. So fantastic for your system to every day mobilize that center section of your body, even if you've only got 30 seconds, is a game changer.
We have
so a really important one
in our gyms as well, where it just gives you that natural curvature of your spine, and you just lie down on it, do a few arm extensions, and you feel ready to go. So
perfect. Meditation. Yes, I'm an everyday kind of I'm a meditator. I don't.
Ooh, I love it. All right.
Yeah, it's something for me every morning. I will just take a little bit of time. It's part of my routine. So, and look, it depends on what's going on. Sometimes guided, like I just like to switch and change depending on how I feel. Guided meditations, sometimes it's self-guided. For me, I think it's a really important skill to be able to, and if it's not meditation, to figure out how you can be more mindful for you, whatever works for you. So an important one. And if you've had a really stressy day and you're really struggling to maybe get out of your brain, I think, using a couple of little tools like a vagus nerve stim or even a little bit of self-massage and breath work can then bring you back into your body. And then that can actually help you get out of your head and help you get into more of a Zen kind of sleep space. So they're the sorts of things that I think are really important. And then the other stuff I've got there is like, it's time permitting. It's when I can do it. Like I love an infrared sauna. Big fan. When I go into the sauna, I try to do it weekly. Sometimes it doesn't happen for me. If I had one in my house, I'd probably do it every second day. But I will, I'll stretch, I'll self-treat while I'm in the sauna.
Do that. And we'll make that happen. We're getting the infrared sauna over at your house. You definitely need that.
That'd be awesome.
We'll chat after this, for sure.
There's other things as well that I've got on the list. There's microcurrent technology that you can use that helps like stimulate connective tissue. There's other stimulus. There's low-level laser. There's pulsed EMF. There's all sorts of different tech that is here and is coming that really helps the body in different ways, just stimulate the function of the cells in the body to recover, regenerate, just function better. So those things, whatever they are for you, fantastic. Use them.
Love it.
I get treatment when I can.
You mentioned PEMF, and I've got that as a question. So are our Olympic athletes using PEMF mats? Is that something that we're bringing in? Or
not necessarily. Like, I'd love to say yes. I think you've got to be a little bit careful if you don't really understand exactly how an athlete's physiology will behave with that technology. You don't want to be that therapist that throws someone onto a mat like that and then their system doesn't cope and they go into a hole in their training. They go into an adaptation because they're just not used to it. So you've just got to tread a little bit gently, but we are moving into that space. There is more and more of that coming. It's just we need the evidence and the research to support it in the performance space. So I'm always a little bit careful. Like, I have got a red light mat here. I've had it for 5 or 6 years, and I use it, and I started using it with a few athletes early on, and I had a few of them just get almost they had not a great result. They just got they felt really thirsty and dehydrated off the table. That wasn't great
or
for
dehydrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they'd come from a really big training session that morning. Their system was really fatigued.
Yes.
And so it was just too much for them. It was throwing all of this energy into their system, and they
True.
just kind of went a bit, it kind of cooked them a little bit. So I
Mm-hmm.
think just being mindful, I think it's great that it's there and we've got the ability to use it, but we just need probably a little bit more information before we start using it on everyone in that space.
Yep. Yeah. And who it's right for, what sports it's right for.
Yeah. And at
And
what phase in their training, their training year, their
frequency
training block.
level.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of that.
And we've
And then
got
I've just
ice
got a
baths. Are
couple.
you doing ice baths?
Yeah, I go through runs where I like runs of things where I am really good with routine and structure.
Okay.
At the moment, I've got to say I haven't been in an ice bath for a couple of weeks, but it is something that I know is fantastic. And cryo, probably a little bit similar.
Yep.
So good for sleep, for mental clarity,
Yeah.
and
Beautiful.
focus. So yeah,
Do you
it's
use also
definitely.
cryo balls? So we've got some cryo balls that go into particular areas instead of, having to bring an entire cryo machine to our
Chamber.
clients.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Full
I've
chamber.
yeah, or a cryo machine. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't got them. I haven't
Okay.
used them, but I'd love to see what you've got. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
Great. Mm.
Yeah. Um,
And then
so
float
yeah,
tanks. Do you do
float
some
tanks.
floating?
I have done some floating. I find I'm probably a little bit time poor at the moment, so I haven't been. There's so many things on my list, right? And I'd love to be able to do it all,
True.
but I just don't have the time. So I would prioritize a sauna over a float
Yep.
tank. I just prefer. I prefer the outcome. I prefer how I feel. And I find with a float tank, it's a long. If it's an hour session or whatever, it's a long time to be in
Yeah.
that. So I'm good for about 30 minutes or so of just chilling, a bit of meditation while I'm in there. Sensory deprivation, great
Yep.
for your system to just switch off. But
Yep.
it's what
It
works
gets
for
over that
you.
30-minute mark. You're
Yeah,
like, all right, I'm on to the next
yeah.
event here. And
Yeah, but having said that, yeah, and that's just me, and that's just how I
yeah.
operate.
Yep.
And there are athletes that I know, like for instance, I mentioned Emma McKeon at the start.
Yes.
So when she found float tanks, she was like, that was one of her things. So
Okay.
she would actually schedule that into her training program and planning, is
Yep.
some time in a float tank with regularity,
Beautiful.
and that worked brilliantly for her.
Yeah.
Float tank with magnesium salts in the water.
That's what we're doing more and
Brilliant.
more. I was going to
Yeah,
ask you about that. So
yeah.
you're really mixing
Mm.
those two together and assisting the body in recovery tenfold, but also her mindset and her mental health at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful. And it does make sense. I mean, there's a lot of recent information around how ice baths are really good for males and not as good for females. And what's amazing for females are the infrared saunas. Not to
yeah.
negate
Wow.
that ice baths are good for females if they're at the 15, 16 degree mark. We're actually a little bit better at the over 14, whereas for men, due to their testosterone levels and their hormone release, that 3 to 10 degree can be perfect for them.
Yeah,
So I
right.
think you're probably just reading into your body and knowing what's really best for you. And as did Em, right? If it's really
Yeah,
deciding on these modalities what works best for those athletes, and if they love them,
yeah.
continue to use
100%.
them.
Yeah, 100%. And there's athletes out there who will religiously hop in an ice bath after
Yes.
every time they're so at an event, they will make sure they hop in an ice bath. They know it works for them. It's part of their routine.
Yeah.
And then and if they don't do it, it's they're not right. They're meant,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. It
probably more a
affects their
mindset thing
recovery.
than
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, it
Maybe a bit of placebo
affects
there,
their.
but
Yeah, there could be. Who knows? But like if they feel like it helps them, it's helping them. So they're going to use
definitely.
it.
Yeah.
But then there's athletes on the flip side who they will never hop in an ice bath, even though it may be good for their physiology. Their mindset is such that no, I'm not. I hate it. I am not doing it. What other things can I do to help with my recovery? So everyone's, unique and specific in that space. And it's the same with the massage space. Some athletes, they will religiously always come over in the competition space for recovery treatment. And then others are really nuanced and really specific. They might only come in if they know they've got a break the next day in their schedule. For instance, if it's a multi-day event like a swimming meet,
Yes.
and then they will be really, some of them, because they're so hypermobile in general, they don't want you to touch them too much because they don't want you to mess with their range of motion too much. They'll lose coordination, they'll lose proprioception, and that can affect their performance. So you've got to be really targeted and really specific. And those athletes, over time, they start to know their bodies and what works for them. And so that kind of goes to that point that I made earlier around just the uniqueness of the athletes and just understanding what works for them. Yeah. So
Sorry,
I
yes,
thought
you wanted to show us the recovery style of the athletes and what we're getting into.
So I just thought I would touch on here. We've got, this is just a couple of photos from Tokyo, actually, Tokyo Olympics. This is in the Australian team building. So COVID affected us greatly, obviously, in Tokyo. And so what happened was so Rio Olympics was 2016 and then Tokyo was supposed to be 2020. It got pushed to 2021 because of COVID. And so within that, the village is a big, bustly, it's literally a village. It'll house up to sort of 17,000 people. It is like a village. So there's a big food hall. There's a big gym, the biggest gym you've probably ever seen. There's a polyclinic that's like a mini hospital. There's like a retail area where there's a hair salon and there's a supermarket and all this. So it's literally like basically a small town. And with COVID,
everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so normally at an Olympics, what would have happened is we would use like a communal space for our recovery protocols. Like we would have ice baths that athletes from any country could kind of go and use. And we would have our own treatment areas, which is what this treatment table that I've got here off to the right, like that is within our own team building, within our own accommodation. We just convert a few apartments into actual like treatment spaces for physio, massage. But with Tokyo, we ended up having to be really self-sufficient with all of our kind of protocols because we didn't want our athletes having to go out and mix with athletes from all other countries. So we were really specialized, and we took all of these iCool portable ice baths for our recovery space. So this is just for the Aussie team. I can't remember how many there were, but there's about 10 ice baths there. We had our own gym space set up within our building. We had our own like little it was like a grab and go type setup and breakfast bar setup for our for food. So we didn't want athletes having to go into the massive food hall and mix too much with others, that sort of stuff. So that became there was a really great change within the Australian team. And so that's so we're a bit more self-sufficient. And I believe I wasn't in Paris, but I believe we had a very similar approach in Paris because it worked so well in Tokyo. The team loved it. We even had a barista that was looking after after us, just at our team building.
Because I mean, Aussies have amazing coffee, so we can't have that is the key thing when you go away. It's like, and I mean, I grew up on Tim Hortons, so I can't say that I was raised on good coffee, and now I'm a coffee snob, so it definitely does rub off. I mean, I go home, I'm like, really? This was my favorite coffee growing up, Tim Hortons. So that's amazing.
I'm a bit like that.
I love that.
So anyway, that's just a few words about what that recovery space looks like.
Beautiful.
And so it's from a logistics standpoint, it's pretty tricky to have all of these innovative type, options that we've talked about already. Because you've got to literally ship everything over there. You've got it's a massive sporting event. And there's a lot of work that goes into, set up and whatnot. if you were, say, just one sport at a world championships or whatever, where it's not a multi-sport event, it's probably a little bit easier to take your own nuanced sort of tech. Like, for instance, with skate, we will take a Game Ready, which is like an portable ice compression machine. So
yeah, I
you
love the
can,
Game Readies.
yeah, cool. So you know what that is?
A lot of them backstage now, and
Yeah, great.
they're the best ones I would say for portability and use.
Yeah, awesome. So we've got those, or one of those that we'll take, and then we've got black roll portable compression boots that we'll take as well. So so they're literally,
do compression boots right now, or do you do the full suit, or mainly?
We just do boots. We just do the boots with skate. It's really, you've got to remember, you've got to cart all of this stuff wherever you go, and then you've actually got to look after it. You don't necessarily have a lot of space there. We don't even know, sometimes these are some of the limitations. At this point in time, we're working with World Skate on what the venues look like and the medical spaces look like, and we actually don't quite know. So we don't know what space we've got there on site at the moment, and we're limited with accommodation. We're in hotels in Rome. So, there's not a lot of options in terms of where we're going to set up this sort of tech if we actually had access to it. So all of those things become big considerations at events like that.
And I presume, so it's going back to it, it's what the athlete is really desiring as well, right? So if they're saying this is a non-negotiable for me, I need to have this, you're like, great. Well, we need to make space for this because this is going to get them out of their head. So let's ensure that we have a small ice bath to the side, or whatever that might be.
We do absolutely, we do our best. So in that environment, it might be, at this point in time, it's probably more ice vests for because it's a portable option. You're rapidly cooling the body without affecting the whole physiology, like all of the muscles, etc., because you don't necessarily want to super cool their whole system. And it's also the space that we've got. We don't necessarily have space for an ice bath, and we've got to look after that ice bath. It needs to be in a secure location. You've got to look after water, quality, hygiene, sanitization, all of that. So that's also all the things when you're at an outdoor event and you don't necessarily control that environment, the event organizers control it. So they're factors that, whilst it would be great to have more, sometimes you just don't have the option. And you've got to go. So they're things that whilst it's great to have, and an athlete, a highly categorized athlete, an Olympic gold medalist might say, look, I really need this. And you can try to find a way as best as possible, but sometimes you just can't. So
no, fair enough. I love it.
Okay.
I've got two more questions before you go, but yes.
Yep. I was going to just say, sorry, I know we've gone over time a little bit. Are you?
No, that's
you're okay?
Yeah, as long as you're okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm okay. So I've got. Can you see the slide I've just pulled up? This is what I'd love to see if we could have more available to us in the Olympic space. So the LA 2028. What could we have? Could we have a red light recovery room?
Wish list. Yeah, that was my question. If you had a wish list, what would it be? Woohoo! This is fantastic.
Yes, I mean, we've got some of this already. We have got ice baths, not necessarily with magnesium in them. We've got massage guns. We have got compression. We don't have all of those other things that are there. I don't think we would readily have. I know with Rio Olympics, we did have some light therapy that was more focused on helping athletes get on the time zone. So it was really focused on, for instance, our swimmers in Rio had to do a complete flip with their schedule. So because of the US media controlling the schedule, basically it meant that our swimmers had to very quickly adapt to swimming fast in the mornings. So the final sessions were in the mornings, the heat sessions were at night, and they were from 10 p.m. to midnight. And then the finals, I'm just trying to think. the finals were 10 p.m. to midnight, and the heats, were from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 3 o'clock or something like that. So it was that. So it was figuring out how we could actually flip our physiology, and using light therapy was one of the things that they did. So it's we have touched on these things. So there's
Get the body
definitely
back
more to
into the
come though.
rhythm and homeostasis faster.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
circadian rhythms. that
Yes.
sort of thing. So just diving back into my memory on that,
I
because
love that
we've
this is
also
your wish list. That was my next question. You knew it. That
I
was
saw.
amazing.
I did. One of the things I've got on there is sound, and
Yes.
so that flows into obviously your brain tap. Muse is another. It's another device that sporting teams. I don't know whether it's still around, but I know a few years ago they were using them. So it's like a headset that you can put on, and it actually has like a brainwave pattern that it will run, and connect your brain into. It helps you get into a meditative state, basically
Beautiful.
by entraining your brainwave
Yep.
pattern. And sound is the other thing. So I love a sound bath, love a quality sound bowl. And the amount of the vibration and the resonance of those bowls, and the ability to help you drop into meditation and presence. Something like that. I know it might be a bit woo-woo, and it's not really techie. It's literally hitting a bowl, or creating resonance with sound. I think that can be fantastic in the recovery space. So
you're speaking my language 100%, and just having some sound therapy back there. And then I think also in that mixture would be breath and some breath work mixed with the sound therapy and brain tap. I always find it very surprising, and that's kind of leading into, I've got one final question, but with breath work, just like sound therapy, it's been around for ages. But our Olympic athletes, although they're training around their breath for the hurdles, for example, they're not, and I'm working with some of the athletics team, they don't have breath work coaches. So they don't have coaches that work specifically around practicing breath work to calm themselves and the entertainment industry is the same. I mean, we've discussed that you don't want to go on step on anybody's toes. So all of them have vocal coaches, very similar to a breathwork coach, but also very different if you know what the two do. One's working on vocal breath and the other one is working on breathing to help with meditation or to help with focus and performance. What are your thoughts around incorporating breath work and having a breath work coach or a sound therapy coach there?
Yeah, look, I don't know about actually having a specific coach there, but certainly upskilling our performance support teams in delivering that type of intervention and a process that embraces that, I think would be fantastic. And I know there are some practitioners out there that do lean into that, who are working in sport and they understand it. It's a little bit like the difference between, if you were to look at psychology and like performance psychology, and how they're working specifically on mindset, typically mindset in the performance space. So performance anxiety, that sort of stuff is kind of what they're dealing with. Good routines around training, etc. Whereas your well-being coach or wellness well-being practitioner, coach, manager, they're more helping you deal with all of the stresses of life. They're not specifically working with you in the performance space. So a little bit similar to what you've just said.
That is it, 100%.
Yeah, and I think it's an important one. And I think it is sort of coming. I mean, if you watch any rugby league, you might notice that often after a try is scored, the team will come back. You see them come back into their huddles, and you watch them. They're actually doing some breath work. I don't know necessarily doing it,
I've seen that
fantastically, but they're focusing on breath, and it looks, I'm not in there myself, but you can see that there's an intention to actually engage with that. So just, it looks like they're trying to calm their systems down with focus on breath, and it's a whole team thing. It's like the whole team's doing it. So it's I think it's coming.
Okay.
But like, the thing is, your lungs go with you wherever you are. And so if you can learn how to use them and learn how to actually, change your physiology with some very simple techniques, it's a no-brainer, right? They're always with you. So figuring out how to use them in terms of to manipulate your physiology, your being present, and calming your system down or ramping your system up, either or, really valuable. Yeah.
Love that. Okay. So it could be coming. Love it.
Yes.
And then my final question. If somebody wanted to, and we've got a few different therapists watching tonight, and their ultimate goal, and I kind of know the journey because I know your journey, but what would be your steps to becoming a wellness coach for the Australian Olympic team? What was your path, or what would you suggest for therapists out there that their dream is to work in high performance sport like yourself?
Yeah, first of all, I'd say you really need to know your stuff. So you really do need, you need the knowledge. You do need some qualifications there. So you need to know what you're doing. If you're working in the soft tissue space, things like you need to know what the movement patterns would be for that particular sport, what a competition environment might be for that particular sport. It makes sense that you would be passionate about that particular path. You would, you would have that mindset where you're happy to be persistent, and you really want to dig in and work hard into that space. So I think steps wise, knowing your stuff, going and perhaps forging some relationships with some local clubs in that particular sport is a good one, to actually just go and engage, to actually then have athletes, coaches, people referring athletes to you who are working in that sport, or thinking of you as a referral source. So forming a little bit of connection there is an important one, and even offering to run little sessions, you could go and offer to do a little workshop, something like that, with the athletes in that club or in that squad. So just engaging with them on that level, so that you're front of mind if they do want to go and see somebody. So taking that sort of an approach is a good one. You could go work in a clinic where they already have that engagement with sport. Going to work in a clinic where they do a bit of education as well as part of your role is a good one. So you could look for some of the clinics in your area, a multimodality type clinic, a physio clinic that is looking for people who want to work in sport. If they already have the clientele there and the then that could be a really good way to approach things. So there's all of that. I would suggest also in the soft tissue world, we are just setting up a domestic soft tissue therapy group that will live in the AIS website in a section called the Clearinghouse. So if you are interested in working in the soft tissue therapy space within Olympic sport, I'm happy for you to reach out to me, and on email, or even through Insta if you like. Or even on message if you've got my phone number.
A slide with your details on it at the end that I never let you get to, actually, because I asked questions that made you jump around a bit, and you did brilliant.
No, that's totally fine. Oh, here's some photos of me doing stuff.
Amazing.
Different events, different places and spaces. So I mean, if we want to talk more about this, we can obviously we can do another session if you like.
Do another session where we'll talk about the specifics. I love it.
Yeah. If the interest is there, more than happy. So this is my email, my contact number. If you do want to be put on that list, then please reach out. I'm on the working group for the soft tissue therapy group. So that is a really great. Yeah, it's a great great place to be if you want national institutes. So like the Queensland Academy of Sport or New South Wales Institute of Sport. If you want to be accessible to them or to any national sporting organisation, that's a list where those people will be going and looking for therapists wherever you are in Australia. So that can be a really great way to be introduced to a sport. So if Swimming Australia are looking for people, they might have a look at that list. If Skate Australia are looking for people, they might, we've got a camp, say, in Melbourne or something like that. We might reach out to people on that list and kind of go from there. So, yeah, please reach out if you're interested.
Love that.
Yeah, I don't know that I would.
One of my wellness coaches say, let's organize an in-person workshop, Megan Jarvis, and UFC fighters are embracing breathwork. Logan Paul works directly with breathwork coach in his preparation. So there's some people actually getting into it in professional sport, which is great to see. And I mean, UFC has always been quite progressive in their different modalities that they bring in. So that's no surprise, but we'd love to organize something. If there is of interest, team, you guys let us know, drop us a message. And that it's one of Thea's passions is assisting people in this space, and would love to connect you guys. And as I mentioned, we have the Million Women Movement event in October. So we'd love for you to, if you're in the country, be one of our VIP guests at that, where we really bring wellness industries and Olympic athletes together in preparation for the 2032 Olympics, which sounds far away, but being in this industry, it is going to be here before you know it. And the tenders and all of the decisions are made years before it, which is why we started the Million Women Movement. So we're so excited to have you as a brilliant source of knowledge, and where other women and men in this space can, one, be inspired, and two, have a gateway. So thank you so much, Thea. You are just a wealth of knowledge after the beautiful presentation that you made tonight. I still have a laundry list of questions, but you answered almost all of them. So I cannot be more grateful. You came very prepared. So thank you for that. And now I know why the PowerPoint was brilliant. It's actually like, well, funny that, Meg, here's something I prepared earlier.
Look, thank you. Thanks so much, Meg. Appreciate your time and the opportunity to come on and talk to the group. I know you've done some stuff with Tim King as well. And some hands-on stuff. So look, I'm very happy to do some hands-on workshops. Whatever it is that the team would like, very happy to engage. Just keep it wherever it needs to be. Follow that path wherever it needs to go. Okay.
No, we appreciate it. We appreciate your time tonight. And where are you off to next? Last but not least, are you off with Skateboarding HQ or?
Yeah, I'm off to Rome. Well, actually, next week I'm going to go down to Newcastle to the Women's State of Origin Game 3. So I'm not actually working
on the sidelines there. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be there. Supporting some people who are very close to me, who work in that space and are on team. So I will be there supporting, and then I go the next week. I'm off to Rome for a couple of weeks with skateboarding. So that's what I'm up to in the next month.
How exciting! Brilliant. Enjoy Rome. Stay cool over there and stay hydrated. As you said, I heard it might be hot, but good luck, and good luck to our athletes. And thank you again, Thea. We will chat soon. We'd love to have you back on. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll chat soon. Have a great night, lovely.
Thanks everyone. See ya.
Thank you guys. See ya.